I saved $73 to bring my sister home. A 7-year-old girl, barefoot, shaking, holding a Ziploc bag of wrinkled bills and coins out to a Hell's Angel in a parking lot. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She was hiring him, because 13 days alone in an empty trailer had taught her that nothing in this world is free, not even your own sister. He looked at that bag. He looked at those bare feet, and something inside a man who hadn't felt anything in 20 years cracked wide open. What he did next brought 999 bikers to their knees and changed both their lives forever. Subscribe, follow this story to the very end, and comment your city so I can see how far this story reaches. She'd been practicing. That's the part that wrecked him later when he told the story. Not the bare feet, not the dirt on her face, not the Ziploc bag. It was the practicing. A 7-year-old girl standing behind a dumpster outside a roadside mechanic shop on Route 66, whispering words to herself like a kid rehearsing for a school play. Except the play was her life, and the audience was a man who'd done time in 2 states. Ace heard her before he saw her. He'd been stuck at that shop for 6 hours, cracked oil line on his Harley. Part wouldn't come till morning. He was sitting on an old tire, smoking his 9th cigarette, watching the Arizona sun melt the asphalt, and thinking about absolutely nothing when he heard the voice. Small, quiet, repeating the same sentence over and over. I saved $73 to bring my sister home. I saved $73 to bring my sister home. I saved 73. He turned his head. She came around the corner like she'd made a decision, and nothing on earth was going to unmake it. Brown hair pulled into 2 messy braids that nobody had fixed in days. An oversized flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up 5 times. A shirt that clearly belonged to someone bigger, someone she loved, because she kept pulling the collar up to her nose and breathing it in. No shoes, feet black from gravel. And in her hands, held out like an offering, a Ziploc bag filled with crumpled bills and coins. She saw him, the leather cut heavy with patches, the skull emblems, the tattoos crawling up both arms, the scar across his left eyebrow. Everything a 7-year-old should run from. She walked straight to him. I saved $73 to bring my sister home. Can you help me? You look like you're not afraid of anything. Ace stared at her. The cigarette burned between his fingers. Ash fell and he didn't notice. He didn't move. He didn't blink. What did you say, kid? She said it again, louder this time, holding the bag higher, like maybe he hadn't seen it. Like maybe the problem was presentation and not the fact that a child was standing barefoot in a parking lot trying to hire a Hell's Angel. My sister Harper got taken 13 days ago. Bad men came to our trailer at night. She told me to hide. I hid. They took her. I need to get her back. I have $73. I counted it 11 times. Ace put the cigarette out on the tire. Slowly. His brain was doing something it hadn't done in years, struggling to process information that didn't fit any category he knew. 13 days ago? Yes, sir. Where are your parents? My mom died. Harper takes care of me. Harper's my sister. She's 19. She works at the diner in the morning and the gas station at night, and she always smells like coffee and gasoline, and I miss her so much my stomach hurts all the time now. She said it all in one breath, like she'd rehearsed that part too. Who took her? Bad men, 2 of them. They kicked the door in. It was the middle of the night. Harper told me to hide in the closet. She always said if something happens, go to the closet, don't make a sound, don't come out till morning. So I did. I heard her screaming. I heard her say. The girl stopped. Her chin trembled, but she locked her jaw and kept going. She said, "Don't open that closet. She's not here. I sent her away. Take me. Just take me." Ace felt something shift in his chest. Not break, not crack. Shift. Like a door he'd welded shut 20 years ago had just moved a 1/4 inch. And then what? A van door. It slammed. Then nothing. I stayed in the closet until the sun came up. Harper said never come out until the sun comes up. That was 13 days ago. Yes, sir. Where have you been for 13 days? Home. Alone? Yes, sir. I had peanut butter and water from the sink. I locked the door with a kitchen chair because the lock broke when they kicked it. Ace leaned forward. You've been alone in a trailer for 13 days. I went to school for 3 days. Then I stopped because nobody noticed anyway. Something behind his ribs twisted hard. He pushed it down. Did you call the police? Her face changed. Fast. The brave front cracked and underneath it was pure fear. No, Harper said never call the police. She said they'd put me in the system and I'd disappear and she'd never find me. She made me promise. She made me swear on Mom's grave. I can't break a promise I made on Mom's grave. Ace ran his hand over his face. 44 years old, 22 years in the club. He'd been in bar fights, ambushes, federal interrogation rooms. He'd stared down men with guns and not flinched. But a 7-year-old girl standing barefoot in front of him, holding a bag of coins, was hitting him harder than any of it. What's your name, kid? Lily. Lily Marshall. Lily, I'm Ace. Is that your real name? It's the only one that matters. Now tell me something. These bad men, do you know who they are? Harper used to work for a man. Before Mom died, she said he was dangerous. She said she got away from him, but he never forgets. His name is Derek. That's all I know. Derek. Ace's eyes narrowed. Derek what? I don't know. Harper never said his last name. She said saying his name was like ringing a bell he could hear. And why'd they take her? Just to take her? Or did they want something? Lily bit her lip. She looked down at the bag in her hands, then back up at Ace. A calculation happening behind her eyes that no 7-year-old should be capable of making. Harper has a thing, a little black stick, like a thumb drive. She kept it hidden. She said it was her insurance. She said as long as she had it, the bad man wouldn't hurt us. But I guess he wanted it back. Where's the flash drive now? Hidden. Harper hid it somewhere safe. I know where it is, but I'm not supposed to tell anyone. Smart girl. Harper taught me. Ace looked at her for a long time. Barefoot, dirty, holding a Ziploc bag like a briefcase. Eyes red but dry because she decided she was done crying and she was here to do business. Kid, keep your money. Her face crumbled instantly. The brave mask shattered, and underneath it was just a 7-year-old girl who'd been alone too long. It's not enough, I knew it. I tried to find more. I checked everywhere. I checked all of Harper's pockets and all the drawers in the coffee can, and there was a birthday card from someone named Aunt June with $20 inside, and I took it, and I'm sorry, but I needed it for Harper, and Lily. He said it firm, not loud. I didn't say I wouldn't help. I said, keep your money. You're going to need it for something better. She stopped mid-ramble. Like what? Like new shoes, or the biggest ice cream sundae you've ever seen, something dumb like that. You'll help me? For free? Those 2 words hit him like a freight train. For free. A 7-year-old in a parking lot, negotiating a rescue like she was hiring a contractor, because the world had already taught her that everything costs something, and love most of all. Yeah, kid, for free. Why? Because some things aren't for sale. She stared at him, reading him, testing him the way a child tests ice on a frozen pond. Carefully, because falling through means drowning. You promise? I promise. Harper says never promise something you can't keep. Harper sounds smart. She is. She's the smartest person I know. She can multiply big numbers in her head, and she knows every constellation, and she always checks under my bed, even though she says monsters aren't real, because she says checking doesn't cost anything, and it makes me feel safe. Ace's throat tightened. He stood up. 6'4", 235 pounds, and a 7-year-old girl had just brought him to the edge of something he hadn't felt in 2 decades. Sit down, Lily, right here on this tire, and tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. She sat. She put the Ziploc bag in her lap and smoothed it flat with both hands, the way a businesswoman might straighten papers before a meeting. Then she started talking. She told him about their mother, Crystal Marshall. Died 2 years ago. Overdose. Harper found her on the bathroom floor and called 911, but it was too late, and Harper didn't cry at the funeral because she said someone had to be strong, and Lily was too little, so it had to be her. She told him about Harper taking over. 19 years old and suddenly everything. Mother, father, sister, provider, protector. 2 jobs. Up at 4 a.m. for the diner. Home by 2. Back out at 6 for the gas station. Home by midnight. 4 hours of sleep. 7 days a week. Because the electricity didn't care that you were 19 and orphaned and raising a child. She told him about the good days. Harper making pancakes shaped like stars on Saturday mornings. Harper teaching her to read using menus from the diner because they didn't have books. Harper braiding her hair and telling her stories about a girl who could talk to motorcycles, and the motorcycles would take her anywhere she wanted to go. She told him about Derek. Harper said she made mistakes when she was younger. She said when Mom was sick and there was no money, a man offered her work. She said the work was bad, but the money was good, and she was 16 and scared. She said she carried things for him, packages. She never told me what was inside. She said she did it for a year, and then Mom died, and she grabbed me, and we ran. And the flash drive? Harper said she took something that belonged to him, his secrets. She said it was the only thing keeping us safe. She said he'd never come after us as long as she could burn him. But he came anyway. He came anyway. She looked at Ace with eyes that had seen too much and understood too little, and were trying so hard to hold both at the same time. Why did he come if she had his secrets? Ace knew the answer. Voss had done the math. 13 days of silence from Harper meant she hadn't used the flash drive, which meant she was holding it as insurance, not leverage, which meant if he could break her, he could get it back and eliminate the threat. Standard predator logic. Patient, cold, methodical. But he didn't say any of that to Lily. Because bad men get greedy, and greedy makes you stupid. Is he stupid? He's about to find out. Ace pulled out his phone, one number, the only number that mattered right now. It rang 3 times. Stonewall. The voice on the other end sounded like gravel being crushed. Stonewall, president of the Iron Serpents chapter, 54 years old, built the chapter from nothing, held it together through federal raids, rival wars, and betrayals that would fill a graveyard. When Stonewall spoke, men who feared nothing went quiet. It's Ace. I need you to listen. All of it. Don't talk till I'm done. And he told him. Everything. The girl, the sister, the 13 days, the flash drive, Derek Voss, the trailer, the closet, the van, the $73. Silence on the line. A long silence. Ace could hear Stonewall breathing. Then, where's the girl now? Sitting on a tire next to me, barefoot, hasn't eaten anything real in days. How old? 7. Another silence, longer this time. Bring her in. Clubhouse. Now. Stone, she's scared. She's been through. I said bring her in. I'm making calls. And Ace? Yeah. Every chapter, every state. This isn't a favor. This is a mobilization. Full scale. You understand what I'm saying? Ace looked at Lily. She was counting her money again, her lips moving silently. $73. 11 times she'd counted it. She was starting the 12th. I understand. Good. Get her food first, something real. And Ace. Yeah? Get the kid some shoes. The line went dead. Ace looked down at Lily. She'd finished counting and was staring up at him with an expression that broke something fundamental about the way he understood the world. It was hope. Pure, terrified, impossible hope. The kind only a child can carry. Too heavy for her, too fragile for the world, and yet she held it with both hands like that Ziploc bag. Lily. Yes, sir? You hungry? Her bottom lip trembled. I ate the last peanut butter 2 days ago. Ace closed his eyes. 2 days. A 7-year-old girl hadn't eaten in 2 days, and she'd spent that time counting coins and rehearsing a speech in a parking lot. Come on, we're getting you food. Then we're going somewhere safe. Where? Somewhere with people who are going to help get Harper back. More people like you? A lot more. She stood up. She reached for his hand, then hesitated, pulling back like she'd forgotten she wasn't supposed to trust strangers. Then she looked at his face, really looked, and whatever she saw there was enough. Her small hand found 2 of his fingers and gripped them. They walked out of that parking lot together. A 6'4" Hell's Angel with a cut full of patches and a 7-year-old girl with no shoes holding a bag of $73. He put her in the pickup. She buckled herself in, then unbuckled, then buckled again because Harper always checked twice. He drove to a diner 3 miles up the road. She ordered a grilled cheese and ate it in 90 seconds. He ordered another. She ate that one too. And a glass of milk. And a second glass. She looked at him across the table. Ace? Yeah? What if she's already dead? The question came out flat, matter of fact. The way a child says something they've been thinking every night for 13 nights and finally found someone to say it to. She's not. How do you know? Because dead people don't need flash drives. They want something from her. That means they're keeping her alive. Lily processed this, nodded slowly. That's smart. You're smart like Harper. Finish your milk. She finished it, wiped her mouth with the flannel sleeve. Then she said something that Ace would think about for the rest of his life. Ace, when you get Harper back, can you make sure she's not too scared? Because when she's scared, she doesn't eat. And she's been gone 13 days. So she's probably really scared. So she's probably really hungry. So maybe bring her a grilled cheese too. He looked at this girl, this impossible girl, 13 days alone, half-starved, barefoot, and her first thought after being rescued wasn't about herself. It was about making sure her sister had a sandwich. I'll bring her too, Lily smiled. Small, fragile. The first smile in 13 days. It lasted 3 seconds, and it rewired something in Ace's chest that he'd spent 20 years pretending didn't exist. His phone buzzed. A text from Stonewall. Tucson confirmed. Phoenix confirmed. Vegas confirmed. Count at 200 and climbing. Get here. Ace pocketed the phone, looked at Lily. We gotta go, kid. Where? To meet the rest of the family. She grabbed her Ziploc bag off the table and slid out of the booth. At the door, she turned back. Ace? Yeah? If this doesn't work, if they can't get Harper back, I need you to know something. What's that? I'll go get her myself. I don't care how. I'll walk there. I'll find her. I'm not leaving my sister with those men forever. You understand? Ace looked at her. 7 years old, 50 pounds, bare feet, clutching a bag of coins. Dead serious. I understand, Lily, but it won't come to that. Promise? Promise. She nodded once, pushed the diner door open, walked into the Arizona heat like a general heading to war. Ace followed her, and for the first time in 20 years, he was following someone. The clubhouse smelled like motor oil and cigarette smoke, and something Lily couldn't name, but would later understand was the scent of men who'd stopped pretending the world was fair a long time ago. Ace walked her through the front door, and 14 heads turned at once. 14 men around a long oak table. Leather, ink, scars, hands wrapped around beer bottles and coffee mugs, Conversations dying mid-sentence. Nobody spoke. Lily didn't stop walking. She crossed the room like she'd been here before, like she belonged, like the 14 most dangerous men in the Arizona chapter were furniture she hadn't noticed. She pulled out a chair, climbed onto it, put her Ziploc bag on the table, and looked at the man sitting at the head. Stonewall. He was already watching her. Gray beard, eyes like concrete, hard on the surface, but deep underneath, something moving. He'd been president of the Iron Serpents chapter for 19 years. He'd buried 6 brothers. He'd survived 3 federal investigations. He'd held this chapter together with his bare hands when everything around it was trying to tear it apart. And right now, a 7-year-old girl was staring at him like he was her last chance on earth. He stood up, walked around the table, crouched in front of her so they were eye to eye. "You must be Lily. The bad men took my sister 13 days ago. I saved $73. She glanced at Ace. But Ace said keep it for ice cream. Something moved across Stonewall's face. Fast. There and gone, like a crack in stone that sealed itself before anyone could see how deep it went. Ace is right. Keep your money. We don't charge for this kind of work. What kind of work? The kind that matters. Lily studied him the way she'd studied Ace, measuring, weighing, deciding. Then she nodded once. Okay, when do we start? Stonewall looked at Ace over Lily's head. Ace saw something in the old man's eyes he'd never seen before. Not anger, not pity. Something older than both. Something that made Stonewall stand up and say to the room, "Church, now, everyone." Ace put his hand on Lily's shoulder. "Stay here for a minute, okay? We need to talk in the back." "About Harper?" "About getting Harper home. I should be in there. I know things." "I know you do, and I'll come get you if we need you. But right now, I need you to trust me." She looked at him for a long time. "I trust you, Ace. Don't make me wrong." That sentence from a 7-year-old hit harder than any threat he'd ever received. Behind closed doors, Stonewall didn't waste a breath. He pointed at Razor, the VP, bald, barrel-chested, a scar running from his jaw to his collarbone that he'd earned in a way nobody talked about at parties. Razor had been running intelligence for the chapter for 11 years. If information existed, Razor could find it. If it didn't exist, Razor could create the conditions that made people volunteer it. "What do we know?" Razor laid it out flat. Derek Voss, 36, runs a trafficking and distribution pipeline out of a compound south of Kingman, 22 miles off Highway 93, past the old copper mine. Ranch property, 70 acres. 1 road in, 1 road out. Main house, 2 outbuildings, a barn. Chain link perimeter. Armed. 8 to 10 men on site at any time. And the girl? Harper? Contact confirmed 40 minutes ago. A woman matching her description is being held in the main house, 2nd floor, alive. The room shifted. Alive meant there was still time. Alive meant this was a rescue, not a recovery. "How reliable?" Stonewall asked. "Reliable enough that I'd bet my patch on it." "Condition?" Razor paused. The kind of pause that tells you the next words are going to cost something to hear. "Beaten, dehydrated. She hasn't given up the flash drive. 13 days of interrogation and she hasn't broken." Ace's fist tightened under the table. 19 years old, 13 days. Holding a secret to protect a sister she didn't even know was safe. "She's holding on because she thinks Lily's out there waiting," Ace said. "She's not wrong." Stonewall turned to him. "You understand what we're doing here. This isn't a bar fight. This isn't a territory dispute. Voss has connections. Cartel pipeline. Armed men. This goes wrong, people go to prison. People go to the ground." "I understand." "Good, because I'm not sending 20 men. I'm not sending 50. Stonewall looked around the room. "I'm calling every chapter we've got, every state that owes us, every brother who ever wore the patch. I want so many bikes on that road that Voss looks out his window and sees the end of his world. Razor whistled low. Full mobilization. You haven't called one of those in 12 years, and that one was for a brother. This one's for a kid. He looked at the door toward the room where Lily sat. She walked into a parking lot with $73 and asked one of us for help. If that doesn't move you, turn in your cut and walk out. Right now. Nobody moved. Then start dialing. The calls went out like shockwaves. Tucson picked up on the first ring. Phoenix confirmed before Razor finished the sentence. Las Vegas called back in 4 minutes with a head count of 60. Oakland committed 90 riders before lunch. Denver, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Portland, Salt Lake. One by one, chapter by chapter, the numbers climbed. 300 by noon, 500 by 3 o'clock, 700 by dinner time. Men were leaving jobs, walking off construction sites, closing auto shops, kissing wives and girlfriends and telling them something came up, something that couldn't wait, something that mattered more than the reasons they'd give later. Loading bikes onto trailers, fueling trucks, pointing themselves toward a dot in the Arizona desert because a 7-year-old girl had done something none of them had the courage to do. She'd asked for help. Meanwhile, Lily had done what children do when adults aren't watching. She'd taken over. Someone, nobody would admit who, had bought a pack of markers and a coloring book from the dollar store down the road. Lily sat at the oak table, the same table where the chapter held war councils and voted on life and death decisions, and she colored. But she didn't just color, she talked. Every man who walked through that room got the same treatment. "What's your name?" Preacher sat down across from her. Lean, quiet, eyes that had seen things in Fallujah he still couldn't talk about without his hands shaking. "They call me Preacher." "Are you a preacher?" "Used to be close to one. Chaplain's assistant, Army." "Do you pray?" "When it matters." "Can you pray for my sister? Her name is Harper. She has blonde hair and green eyes, and she's really smart. She can multiply big numbers in her head." Preacher's jaw tightened. "I'll pray for her right now." "Out loud?" "If you want." "I want." And Preacher, a man who hadn't prayed out loud since Afghanistan, bowed his head in a Hells Angels clubhouse and prayed for a 19-year-old girl he'd never met, while her 7-year-old sister watched and nodded like she was approving the quality of the prayer. Gears came in next. The chapter mechanic could rebuild any engine blindfolded, which Lily tested by asking him to close his eyes and name every part of a motorcycle from memory. He got through 47 parts before she stopped him. "That's pretty good," she said, the way a teacher might acknowledge acceptable homework. "Thanks, kid." Harper's car broke down once and she fixed it with a YouTube video and duct tape. "Can you do that?" "I've done worse with less." "Good, you're hired." Gears looked at Ace, confused. "Hired for what?" Ace shrugged. "Whatever she says." Then Tiny walked in, 6'7", 300 pounds, shoulders that barely fit through the doorframe. He sat down and the chair groaned like it was filing a complaint. Lily looked up at him, then further up, then craned her neck all the way back. "You're bigger than a truck." "I get that a lot." "What's your name?" "Tiny." She stared at him, processing. Then a laugh broke out of her. Sudden, bright, startling, the first real laugh she'd produced in 13 days. "That's a funny name for someone so big. That's like calling a fire truck Little Squirt." Tiny grinned. "My mom had a sense of humor." "I like your mom." "Me too, kid." The laugh faded. As quick as it came, it left. Lily went back to coloring, and the silence that replaced the laughter was heavier than before, because everyone in that room had heard what joy sounded like coming out of a child who had no reason to feel any. And the absence of it was deafening. At 9 p.m., the count hit 900. At 9:47 p.m., Stonewall's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, set it down, looked at Ace. 999. Ace exhaled. From how many states? 12. Arizona, California, Nevada, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Utah, Oregon, Montana, Kansas, Wyoming. 5 guys from Wyoming rode out 3 hours ago. They heard about the girl and couldn't sit home. They don't even know her. They know enough. Stonewall leaned back. We ride at dawn. But the night wasn't done with Lily. The laughter, the coloring, the interrogations of every biker who crossed her path. All of it was armor. And armor comes off when the lights go down. She stopped coloring at 10. She stopped talking at 10:15. By 10:30, she was sitting at the table with a Ziploc bag in her lap, counting the money again, her lips moving without sound. $73, 12, 13, 14 times she'd counted it now. Ace sat across from her. He didn't say anything. He waited. What if she's not there? Lily whispered. So quiet he almost missed it. She's there. My guys confirmed it. What if they moved her? What if they heard you were coming and they ran? People run. Mom used to run. Harper used to run. Everybody runs. Not this time. We have eyes on that compound. She's there. What if she's hurt? He didn't lie. He'd made that decision in the parking lot. This girl had survived 13 days on peanut butter and tap water and sheer force of will. She'd earned the truth. Every word of it. She might be hurt, Lily. The bad men haven't been kind to her. 13 days is a long time. Her breath hitched. How bad? I don't know exactly, but she's alive. And she's strong. She held on for 13 days because she knew you were out there. She held on for you. One tear fell, landed on the Ziploc bag, then another. She didn't wipe them. I want my sister. 3 words, the most devastating 3 words Ace had ever heard, and he'd heard men beg for their lives. Tomorrow, Lily, tomorrow. She reached across the table and found his hand. Her fingers couldn't wrap around his fist, so she grabbed his index finger and held on with everything she had. You really promise? I really promise. Because if you break this promise, I'll never trust anybody again. I mean it, Ace. This is my last trust. I'm giving it all to you. All of it. Don't waste it. He looked at her. This girl, who spoke like someone who'd run out of second chances before she'd lost her first tooth. I won't waste it. Tank arrived at 11. He came through the door and the room got smaller. 6'6", 285, brown buzz cut, hands that could crush a cinder block and had, once, on a bet he still collected on. Sergeant at arms of the Iron Serpents, the enforcer, the wall, the man who handled discipline and violence with equal precision. He was also the man who rescued stray cats from dumpsters, cried at the end of certain movies he'd never name, and once threatened a prospect with a hospital stay for yelling at a waitress over cold soup. These facts were not widely circulated. He walked to the table. Lily looked up. Way up. You're the biggest person I've ever seen. Tank crouched, an engineering feat for a man his size. His knees popped like gunshots. He was eye level with her now. Hey, Lily, I heard you're pretty tough. I'm not tough. I'm scared all the time. That's what tough means, kid. Scared and doing it anyway. She considered this, turned it over in her mind with the seriousness of a philosopher encountering a new theorem. Then she stuck her hand out. Nice to meet you, Mr. Tank. He took her hand in his. Her entire fist disappeared inside his palm. Nice to meet you, Lily. From that moment, something locked into place. Not like a decision, like gravity. Like a planet finding its orbit. A 7-year-old girl in a flannel shirt had just claimed a 285-pound Hell's Angel as her personal protector. And he didn't fight it, didn't question it, didn't even fully understand it yet. It just was. Stonewall put Lily in a back room. A cot. A blanket that smelled like laundry detergent, which was a minor miracle for a biker clubhouse. Tank carried a folding chair to the hallway outside her door, sat down, crossed his arms, and didn't move. "You don't have to sit there," Ace told him. "Yeah, I do. She's safe here. She's safer with me at this door." "Tank, walk away, brother. I'm not moving." Ace walked away. At 2 in the morning, the door creaked open. Tank's eyes, which had never closed, shifted down. Lily stood in the doorway, tears on her cheeks, her body trembling. "Bad dream." "What kind?" "The van. They took Harper and I tried to run after them, but my legs wouldn't move. I was screaming and nobody heard me, and the van got smaller and smaller until it was gone, and I was standing in the road by myself, and it was dark and—" She couldn't finish. Tank reached out, slow, careful, like approaching a bird with a broken wing. She climbed into his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world, like she'd been waiting for arms big enough to hold everything she was carrying. She weighed nothing. She weighed everything. "You want me to tell you a story?" She nodded against his chest, her tears soaking through his shirt. "Once upon a time, there was a warrior princess, but she wasn't a regular princess. She didn't have a castle or a crown or any of that stuff. What did she have? A flannel shirt and a motorcycle, the loudest one in the whole kingdom." "How loud?" "So loud that when she revved the engine, it woke up the mountains. And every time someone told her she was too small to ride it, she'd rev it so hard the ground shook, and the trees bent sideways, and the rivers changed direction." "What would she say?" "She'd say, 'I'm not too small, you're just not looking hard enough.'" Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, "I like her. She's pretty great. Does she save people?" "Every day." "Does she ever get scared?" "Every day." "But she does it anyway?" "Every single day. That's what tough means. You taught me that, kid." She was asleep in 3 minutes. Her fist closed around the collar of his shirt. Her breathing evened out. The trembling stopped. Tank held her. 2 hours. Didn't shift. Didn't adjust. Didn't move his arms, even when the left one went numb from the elbow down. He'd stood guard duty in worse conditions for people who mattered less. At 4 a.m., Ace found them. Tank in the chair, Lily curled against his chest, both still. "She had a nightmare," Tank said quietly. "The van." Ace nodded. "Stonewall wants final briefing at 5. I'll be there, soon as she's back in bed." "Tank." "What?" "When this is over, when we bring Harper back, what happens to them?" Tank looked down at Lily, her face peaceful for the first time since he'd met her, the crease between her eyebrows gone, the tension in her jaw released. "Just a kid. Just a sleeping kid who should be worrying about cartoons and homework and whether Santa was real, not whether her sister was alive. What happens to them is we don't disappear. That's what happens. We don't ride off into the sunset and feel good about ourselves and forget. Not this time. That's not how it usually works. Then we change how it works." Ace looked at him. 22 years in the club together. They'd bled together, fought together, done things they'd never speak of. But he'd never heard Tank talk like this. "She got to you. She got to all of us, brother. She just got to me first." At 5 a.m., the final briefing. Stonewall stood at the head of the table. Every officer present. The plan was surgical. Approach from the south, block the single road, cut communications. 2 advanced teams flank the outbuildings. Main force holds the perimeter. Ace walks in alone. "Why alone?" Razor asked. "Because 999 bikes say everything we need to say. One man walking forward says the rest. You don't negotiate with an army. You negotiate with the man who commands it." "And if Voss doesn't cooperate?" Stonewall's voice dropped to a register that made the walls feel closer. "Voss has a choice. He gives us the girl and we leave him for the law. Or he doesn't give us the girl and he finds out what 999 men who rode all night for a 7-year-old look like when they're angry. His choice. Free will. God bless America." Cops? Burner called to state police 15 minutes after we arrive. FBI tip line gets the flash drive details the moment Harper's in our hands. We do this clean. No body bags, no felonies. We are the wall. The law is the hammer. We hold him. They nail him. Every man at the table nodded. At 5:30, Ace went back to check on Lily. Tank had moved her to the cot without waking her. She was curled on her side, the Ziploc bag pressed against her chest like a teddy bear. Ace crouched beside the cot. He didn't touch her. He just watched her breathe. 7 years old, 13 days alone, $73. And tomorrow, no, today, 999 men were going to ride through the desert because of her. Because she didn't give up. Because she walked into a parking lot with everything she had and asked for help. He stood up, walked to the main room. Dawn was breaking through the windows. Tank was already at the door, arms crossed, ready. She's still asleep, Ace said. Good, let her sleep. Let her dream about the princess on the motorcycle. And when she wakes up? Tank looked east, toward the desert, toward the compound, toward Harper. When she wakes up, we bring her sister home. Lily woke up at dawn and knew before she opened her eyes. She felt it through the cot, through the floor, through the walls. A vibration, low, deep, constant, like the earth itself had a heartbeat and it was getting louder. She sat up. The Ziploc bag fell off her chest. She grabbed it, stuffed it in the flannel pocket, and ran to the window. She stopped breathing. Motorcycles, hundreds of them. Rows stretching so far she couldn't see where they ended. Men moving between them, checking engines, adjusting mirrors, tightening straps, leather and chrome catching the first light of morning like some kind of army that had materialized overnight from the desert floor. Tank appeared behind her. She hadn't heard him come in. For a man his size, he moved like smoke. You okay, kid? How many? 999. She pressed her palm flat against the glass. All of them? All for Harper? Every last one. But they don't even know her. Tank crouched beside her. His knees popped again. He was starting to think this kid was going to destroy his joints before the day was over. They know you. That's enough. Lily turned from the window. Her face was doing something Tank hadn't seen before. It was fighting between disbelief and something so raw and enormous that her small body could barely contain it. She was learning, in real time, that she was not alone in the world. And the size of that discovery was almost too big to fit inside a 7-year-old's understanding. Tank? Yeah? I'm scared. Me too. You're scared? Every time, kid. But you're doing it anyway? What did I teach you? She almost smiled. Almost. That's what tough means. Now eat your breakfast. Preacher made eggs. Don't tell him I said this, but they're terrible. Eat them anyway. She ate. Every bite. Terrible eggs and all. She ate them standing at the window, watching the army she'd accidentally summoned, holding a fork in one hand and pressing her other palm against the glass, like she was trying to touch every single rider through it. Outside, Stonewall stepped onto the porch. He raised his hand. One hand, nothing else. No whistle, no shout, no signal, just his hand in the air. 999 men went silent, instantly, like someone had pulled the plug on the world's sound system. The only noise was wind and the tick of cooling engines and the heartbeat of a girl watching from behind glass. Brothers! Stonewall's voice carried without effort. It was built for this, for open air, for hard truths, for moments when words had to do what fists couldn't. You know why you're here. 13 days ago, a 19-year-old girl was ripped from her home while her 7-year-old sister hid in a closet and listened. He paused, let it land. That little girl spent 13 days alone, eating peanut butter, drinking sink water, counting coins. She saved $73 and walked up to one of ours in a parking lot and asked him to buy her sister back. Something rippled through the crowd. Not sound, energy, the kind that makes neck hair stand up. She didn't know who we are. She didn't know what the patch means. She just saw a man she thought looked strong enough to help. And she was right. Stonewall's voice hardened, shifted from sermon to steel. Today we ride, not for territory, not for money, not for pride. Today we ride for Lily Marshall, age 7, who taught 999 grown men what courage looks like. It looks like a little girl with $73 and a heart bigger than all of us combined. He looked toward the window. He couldn't see Lily through the glass, but he knew she was there. He could feel it. We bring her sister home, we deliver a message, and we do it clean. No body bags, no felonies. We are the line. Today we hold it. He dropped his hand. Mount up. The roar that followed was something no one who heard it would ever be able to describe accurately. 999 engines firing. First 1, then 10, then 100, then all at once. The air split open. The buildings shook. Lily felt it in her teeth, in her ribs, in the soles of her bare feet. She didn't step back from the window. She pressed closer. Ace mounted his bike at the front of the column. He lifted his hand toward the window. Not a wave, a salute. Steady, certain. Lily lifted hers back, small hand against glass. Go get her, she whispered. Please go get her. Tank put his hand on her shoulder. She reached up and held his fingers without looking away from the window. He promised, she said. I know. If he breaks it, he won't. How do you know? Because I've known Ace for 22 years, and he's a lot of things, but a liar isn't one of them. The bikes rolled out, 1 by 1, then 2 by 2, then a river of chrome and leather and thunder pouring through the gate and onto the road. From above, it would have looked biblical, a migration, a reckoning, an answer to a prayer nobody believed would be heard. They passed through town. People came out of houses. A woman at a crosswalk held her hand over her heart and didn't put it down until the last bike passed. A man at a gas station stopped pumping and just stared, the nozzle dripping on his shoes. A sheriff's deputy pulled to the side of the road, turned off his lights, and tried to count. He gave up at 400. In the lead, Ace's mind was doing 2 things at once. The first was tactical, running the plan, checking distances, calculating approach angles. The second was something else entirely. He kept hearing Lily's voice, that flat, matter-of-fact tone. What if she's already dead? And then, if you break this promise, I'll never trust anybody again. He wasn't going to break it. He'd die on that compound before he broke it. And that realization, that he was willing to die for a child he'd met 20 hours ago, told him something about himself that 20 years of riding hadn't. 40 minutes out, Ace's phone buzzed. Razor, riding 3 bikes back, texting one-handed. Eyes on compound, no change. 8 men, 2 guards at gate. Harper confirms 2nd floor. She's alive. Alive. That word again. The most important word in the English language when someone you're riding to save might not be. 20 minutes out. The column tightened. Riders closing gaps, forming ranks, moving with the discipline of men who'd done this before, in different contexts for different reasons, but never for one this clean. 10 minutes out, Ace could feel the compound before he could see it. End of a dirt road, flat nothing in every direction. The kind of place people disappear and the land doesn't tell. 5 minutes out, dust clouds rising behind them. Visible for miles. That was intentional. Stonewall wanted Voss to see them coming. Wanted him to stand at his window and watch the horizon fill with headlights and understand, slowly, completely, that whatever power he thought he had was about to become meaningless. They reached the compound. Ace killed his engine. 999 bikes followed. 1 by 1, the thunder died, and what replaced it was something worse. Silence. Complete, absolute, crushing silence. The kind that makes brave men sweat and cowards pray. The compound sat at the end of the road. Chain-link fence, main house, 2 outbuildings, barn, 3 trucks parked at the porch, 2 guards with rifles standing at the gate, their faces cycling through confusion, calculation, and the first cold edge of genuine fear. One of them raised his rifle. His hands were shaking. Ace didn't flinch. He swung off his bike, stood, rolled his shoulders, and started walking. Behind him, 998 men sat motionless on their bikes. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The message was the silence itself. The message was the number. The message was the wall of leather and steel and resolve stretching to the horizon behind one man walking forward with empty hands and absolute certainty. The front door of the house opened. Derek Voss stepped out, 36 years old, lean, slicked brown hair, a face hollowed out by paranoia and cruelty, and the particular brand of arrogance that comes from hurting people who can't fight back. He wore a white shirt and jeans, and he looked like a man who'd been expecting a lot of things today, but not this. Not anything close to this. His eyes swept the road, left to right, counting, failing. There were too many by hundreds. His brain couldn't hold the number. "What the hell is this?" His voice cracked. He heard it crack and hated it. Ace stopped 15 feet from the porch, close enough to talk, far enough to react. Derek Voss. Who's asking? The man who's giving you one chance to do the smart thing. You've got a woman in that house. Harper Marshall. You took her 13 days ago from a trailer where she was raising her 7-year-old sister alone. You left that child to starve. I'm here to take Harper back. Voss's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. And here's what you need to understand. Ace pointed behind him without turning his head. There are 999 men on that road. Every one of them knows your name. Every one of them knows what you did. Every one of them rode through the night to be standing here right now. Some of them came from Wyoming, Derek. You know how far Wyoming is? They left their homes, their families, their jobs, for a girl they've never met, because a 7-year-old asked. Voss's eyes kept moving, scanning the road, looking for weakness, finding none. She has something of mine. His voice steadied, businessman mode. A flash drive. That's all this is about, a business matter. She stole from me. I want it back. We can work this out. A business matter. Ace repeated it slowly. Let the words hang in the air like a bad smell. You kidnapped a 19-year-old girl. You beat her for 13 days. You left a child alone in a trailer with no food and a broken door, and you call it a business matter. Look, you don't know the full, I know enough. Send her out, right now. I can't do that, not without the... I wasn't finished. Ace's voice dropped, low and flat and steady, the vocal equivalent of a gun being cocked. The 2 guards felt it. They stepped back without deciding to. Pure instinct. You have 2 minutes. Send Harper Marshall out that door, or I stop talking and those men behind me start moving. And Derek, I want you to take a real good look at them. A real long look. Because those are not businessmen. Those are not negotiators. Those are fathers and brothers and sons who rode through the night because a 7-year-old girl with $73 taught them something about what matters. And right now, what matters to every single one of them is the girl in your house. 2 minutes. Voss looked at Ace, then past him, then back. The math was simple. 8 men with rifles against 1,000 who didn't need them. His compound wasn't a fortress. It was a speed bump. 1 minute 50, Ace said. Voss turned and went inside. Ace stood still. The sun was fully up now, heat starting to build, sweat on his neck. He didn't move. He didn't check his phone. He didn't look back at the riders. He stood with his boots in the dirt and his hands at his sides, and he waited. 1 minute, 90 seconds. Behind him, 998 men sat in perfect silence. No engine revved, No voice spoke. The silence was the threat. The silence said everything. The silence said, "We have all day. We have all year. We're not leaving without her." 1 minute 45. Ace felt his pulse ticking in his throat. His hands weren't shaking, but they wanted to. If that door didn't open in 15 seconds, the door opened. Voss came out first. Hands visible, face gray, the arrogance gone, replaced by something small and cornered and calculating its odds of survival. Behind him, Harper. Ace's chest seized, 19 years old, but looking 40. Blonde hair matted, filthy, tangled in knots that hadn't been touched in 13 days. Face mapped with bruises, yellow, purple, green, the full spectrum of sustained violence. Wrists raw from zip ties, the skin broken and scabbed and broken again. She squinted in the sunlight like someone surfacing from underground, flinching from the brightness, her body curled inward with the posture of a person who'd been hit so many times she'd started preemptively bracing. She saw the motorcycles. She saw the road full of men. She didn't understand. "Harper," Ace said it soft, the softest his voice had gone in 20 years. "My name is Ace. I'm here because of Lily." Harper staggered, physically, like the name was a shove. Her hands shot out and grabbed the porch railing. "Lily?" The word came out destroyed, torn from a throat that had spent 13 days screaming refusals and swallowing blood. "Lily's alive?" "She's alive. She's safe. She's been safe for 2 days." "Oh, God." Harper's knees buckled. She grabbed the railing with both hands. Oh, God, she was in the closet. I told them she wasn't there. I told them I sent her away. Did they believe me? Did they go back? Did they? They didn't go back. She stayed in the closet till sunrise, just like you taught her. She locked the door with a kitchen chair. She survived 13 days on her own, Harper. Peanut butter and tap water. And then she saved $73 and walked up to me in a parking lot and asked me to bring you home. Harper made a sound Ace would hear every night for the rest of his life when he closed his eyes. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a cry. It was the sound of a heart restarting. The sound of a 19-year-old sister learning she hadn't failed, that the child she died to protect was alive and safe and had come for her. My baby sister. She let go of the railing. Her legs gave out completely. Ace caught her. She weighed nothing. 13 days of starvation and beatings had stripped her down to will and bone in the sound she kept making. My baby sister. My baby sister. Pressed into his shoulder while she gripped his jacket with fingers that had no strength left but wouldn't release. She's waiting for you, Ace said. She told me to bring you a grilled cheese because you probably haven't been eating. She said you don't eat when you're scared. Harper laughed. Broken, wet, half destroyed, but a laugh. She said that? She also said you can multiply big numbers in your head and you know every constellation. I taught her Orion. I told her if she ever got lost to find the 3 stars in a row and know I was looking at them too. Let's go home, Harper. Behind them, engines turned over. Not the roar of arrival, something lower, something reverent. Stonewall had given the signal. Time to move. And from the east, screaming down the dirt road, state police cruisers. 3 of them. Lights blazing, sirens splitting the desert air. Stonewall's burner call, placed exactly 15 minutes earlier, had done its work. Behind the cruisers, 2 black SUVs, FBI, and behind those, an ambulance. Voss saw them and his face collapsed. Not just defeat, the understanding that every exit had been closed before he even knew there were exits to close. His men came out one by one, hands up, rifles on the ground. The guards at the gate dropped their weapons and knelt without being asked. They'd done the math. Every one of them had done the math. Voss was last. A state trooper cuffed him. He stared at the ground. Didn't speak. Didn't look at Harper. Didn't look at Ace. Didn't look at the 999 men who just ended his empire without throwing a single punch. The trooper walked him to a cruiser, opened the door, pushed his head down. The door closed. Ace watched him go. Felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not triumph. Nothing. Because the only thing that mattered was the girl leaning against his shoulder, whispering her sister's name like a prayer she'd been holding for 13 days. And the fact that somewhere 40 minutes behind them, a 7-year-old was standing at a window, pressing her palm against the glass, waiting for a promise to be kept. An EMT approached. Young guy, maybe 25, trying to stay professional and failing because Harper's face made it hard to say anything. "Ma'am, we need to check." "I'm fine." "Ma'am, you have visible injuries. We need—" "I said I'm fine. Take me to my sister, right now. Please, I need to see her. I need to see her right now, please." The please broke the EMT. He looked at Ace. "She rides with us," Ace said. "You treat her on the way." "That's not really—" "That wasn't a request." Harper got into the ambulance. An EMT started an IV. She didn't flinch when the needle went in. After 13 days, a needle was nothing. Pain was nothing. Everything was nothing except 40 minutes of road between her and Lily. Ace pulled out his phone. One text to Tank. "We have her. She's alive. Heading back." The reply came in 4 seconds. "Kid won't sit down. Standing at the window since you left. How far?" 40 minutes. She says drive faster. Ace pocketed his phone, mounted his bike, raised his fist. The convoy formed behind him, slower now. No urgency in the speed, but urgency in every heartbeat. 999 bikes winding through the desert, and in the middle, an ambulance carrying a 19-year-old girl who hadn't stopped crying since she heard her sister's name. 30 minutes out, Ace's phone buzzed again. Tank. She made a sign, colored markers. It says, "Welcome home, Harper." She taped it to the front door. She used all the red markers. We're out of red markers. 20 minutes. 15. 10. Ace could see the clubhouse, could see the building getting bigger, the parking lot coming into focus. The front door was something red and bright taped to it. 5 minutes. His phone one more time. Tank. She sees you. She's screaming. I can't hold her. She's going for the door. Ace, drive faster. Ace twisted the throttle. Behind him, 998 men did the same. Tank couldn't hold her. He tried. He got one hand on her shoulder and she twisted out of it like water through fingers. He reached again and she ducked under his arm. 285 pounds of muscle and discipline, and he couldn't stop 50 pounds of 7-year-old girl from blowing through the front door like a bullet. "Lily, wait!" She was already gone. Bare feet hit the dirt. The flannel shirt flew behind her like a cape, braids bouncing, arms pumping. She stumbled once on a rock and caught herself without breaking stride, without even registering pain, because pain was a thing that happened to her body, and her body was not in charge right now. Her heart was in charge, and her heart was locked onto the ambulance doors opening 40 yards ahead. The ambulance had barely stopped. The back doors swung wide. An EMT jumped out first, reaching back to help, but Harper didn't wait for help. She grabbed the door frame with both hands and pulled herself down. Blanket around her shoulders, IV bruise on her arm, legs shaking so bad she could barely stand. She stood anyway, and then she heard it. "Harper!" The word split the air like a crack of lightning. It hit every man in that parking lot, every single one of the 999, like a physical blow. Leather-hardened men who'd been in bar fights and jail cells and federal raids flinched, not because it was loud, because of what was inside it. 13 days, 13 nights, a closet, a van driving away, silence in an empty trailer, peanut butter and tap water in a kitchen chair against a broken door. All of it compressed into one word, one name, fired from the lungs of a child who had spent every second of those 13 days refusing to believe this moment wouldn't come. Harper dropped to her knees, not because she chose to, because her body gave out. Because the sound of her sister's voice, after 13 days of believing she might never hear it again, short-circuited every system keeping her upright. "Baby, oh God, come here. Come here, come here, come here." Lily crashed into her at full speed. The impact knocked Harper backward. Didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Arms locked around necks, small legs wrapped around a waist, faces buried in hair, two bodies becoming one body on the dirt outside a Hells Angels clubhouse while the world held its breath. The sound Lily made was not a word. It wasn't crying. It was something older than language. The raw, animal howl of a child who'd lost her person and found her person and couldn't tell the difference between the relief and the grief because they were the same thing. They'd always been the same thing, two sides of a love so big it could destroy you and save you in the same second. "Harper! Harper! Harper! You came back! You came back!" I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm never leaving. I'm never leaving again. I'm here." Harper rocked her, back and forth, knees in the dirt, face in Lily's hair, tears cutting tracks through the grime on her cheeks. Her arms were shaking, from exhaustion, from malnutrition, from 13 days of beatings, but she held that child with a strength that had nothing to do with muscle. "Let me look at you." Harper pulled back, took Lily's face in her hands, studied it, cataloging, checking, counting eyelashes and freckles, and making sure everything was still there, still whole, still Lily. "You're so skinny," Harper whispered. "Baby, you're so skinny." I ate peanut butter, and Ace bought me grilled cheese, 2 of them, and milk. 2 grilled cheeses? I was really hungry, Harper. Harper's face crumpled. The composure she'd been holding, the fragile, desperate composure of a woman trying to be strong for a child, collapsed. She pulled Lily in again and held her so tight the girl squeaked. "You were alone, 13 days. You were alone and I couldn't. I tried to get back to you. Every day I tried. I told them nothing. I gave them nothing. Because I knew if I could just hold on." "I know," Lily pulled back, 7 years old and looking at her sister with the eyes of someone much older. "I know, Harper. Ace told me. He said you held on for me. Every second, every single second was for you. I held on too. I did everything you taught me. Closet till sunrise, chair against the door. I didn't call the police. I went to school for 3 days, but then I stopped because nobody noticed, and I figured it didn't matter because you always said the real education is learning to survive. And I was doing that pretty good." Harper laughed, broken and wet and destroyed, but a laugh. "Pretty well." "What?" "Pretty well, not pretty good. Grammar matters even during—" She couldn't finish. The laugh became a sob, and the sob became something wordless, and she held Lily again. "I saved $73, Lily said into her shoulder. "I was going to buy you back." "Buy me back?" "The bad men always want money, so I got all the money I could find. The coffee can, your drawers, the birthday card from Aunt June. I'm sorry I took the $20 from Aunt June. Baby, I counted it 11 times, maybe more. I lost count of the counting, and then I went to the mechanic shop and I found Ace, and I asked him to help, and he said, 'Keep my money for ice cream.' And then he called people, and people called more people, and now there's 999 motorcycles. And I still don't really understand how that happened, but it happened, and you're here, and I don't care about the rest." Harper looked up. For the first time since stepping out of the ambulance, she really looked. At the parking lot, at the motorcycles, at the men, 999 of them, standing beside their bikes, silent, still, watching two sisters on the ground, and not one of them pretending they weren't wrecked by it. All of them? Harper whispered. All of them, Lily said. 12 states. 5 guys came from Wyoming. I don't know where Wyoming is, but Preacher said it's far. Harper's hand went to her mouth. She looked at Ace, who was standing 10 feet back, hands in his pockets giving them space. She looked at Stonewall, who stood on the porch with his arms crossed, and his jaw tight and his eyes wet. She looked at 999 strangers who'd ridden through the night for her. Why? The word came out small. Ace took a step forward. Because your sister asked. She's 7. Yeah, and she's braver than every man here, including me. Harper looked down at Lily. Lily looked up at Harper, and between them in that space, something rebuilt itself. Not just a reunion, a reconstruction. 2 people who'd been torn apart putting themselves back together in real time, fitting the broken pieces into new configurations that were different from before, but maybe stronger, the way bones heal thicker at the break. Harper, your face. Lily reached up and touched a bruise on Harper's cheek, with fingers so gentle it barely qualified as contact. Does it hurt? Not anymore. Liar. Okay, a little. A lot. Maybe a lot, but it doesn't matter because I'm looking at you. And when I'm looking at you, nothing hurts. That's cheesy, Harper. I know. I don't care. Lily leaned forward and kissed the bruise. Soft. The way Harper used to kiss her scraped knees. There, I fixed it. Harper's chest heaved. She pulled Lily close one more time, and the 2 of them stayed there, in the dirt, holding on. Behind them, Razor, the VP, the man with the scar from jaw to collarbone, the man who'd broken arms without flinching and stared down federal agents without blinking, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He turned away, turned back, wiped them again, gave up and just let them run. Preacher stood with his head bowed and his lips moving. Another prayer, this one silent. This one he'd keep to himself because some conversations with God are too private for other people to hear. The 5 riders from Wyoming, men who'd left their homes and ridden all night because they heard about a girl and couldn't stay sitting, huddled together at the back of the lot with their faces turned away. Their shoulders were shaking. Not one of them was going to admit it. Not one of them cared. Tiny, 6'7", 300 pounds, was sobbing openly and not the least bit embarrassed. He'd given up on dignity about 30 seconds after Lily hit Harper at full speed, and he wasn't interested in getting it back. Gears sat on his bike with his arms crossed and his teeth clenched, staring straight ahead, doing the math on how long he could go without blinking before the tears spilled. The math was not in his favor. Even Stonewall, the man who'd built this chapter, who'd held it through wars and betrayals and loss, who hadn't publicly shown emotion since 1998. He stood on that porch and breathed through his teeth and pressed his thumb and forefinger into his eyes because a 7-year-old girl screaming her sister's name had broken something in him that 19 years of brotherhood hadn't. Tank stood behind Lily, arms at his sides, tears running into his beard, not hiding it, not wiping them, just letting them fall because some things deserve your tears, and this was one of them. After a long time, minutes, hours, nobody was counting, Lily pulled back from Harper. She reached into the flannel pocket, pulled out the Ziploc bag, $73, wrinkled bills and coins she'd counted so many times the bag was wearing thin at the creases. She walked to Stonewall, held it out. Thank you for bringing my sister home. You can have this now. Stonewall crouched. His knees didn't pop as bad as Tank's, but they complained. He put his hands on her shoulders. Lily, I told you, no charge. But you came from far away. All of you. Gas is expensive. Harper always says gas is expensive. A sound moved through the crowd, started at the front, rippled backward, maybe laughter, maybe something else. Something that happens when 999 men hear a child worry about gas money for a rescue mission. Keep your money, Lily, and if you ever need us again, any of us, for any reason, you just call. Deal? Lily considered this. She tipped her head to one side and narrowed her eyes with the gravity of a judge weighing a verdict. Deal, but I'm paying you back someday, when I'm big. I believe you will. She stuck out her hand. Stonewall shook it. His hand swallowed hers completely, but she squeezed hard and pumped it twice, because Harper had taught her that a handshake means something and you don't do it halfway. Then she walked back to Harper, sat down next to her in the dirt, leaned against her, closed her eyes. I'm tired, Harper. I know, baby. I haven't slept good in 13 days. Me neither. Can we sleep now? Soon. The doctors need to check me first. Lily's eyes opened, sharp. Check what? What did they do to you? Tell me. Lily, tell me. Harper looked at this child, this impossible child who'd survived 13 days alone and saved $73 and recruited an army and hadn't broken once. She deserved the truth. She'd earned it the same way Ace had decided she'd earned it, through survival. They hurt me, my ribs, my face. They wanted the flash drive and I wouldn't give it to them. Why not? Because the flash drive was the only thing keeping me alive. If I gave it up, they didn't need me anymore. And if they didn't need me, they'd... She stopped. They'd kill you. Yes. So you held on. 13 days. For me. For you, Lily. Every second, every time they hit me, I thought about you. I thought about braiding your hair. I thought about pancakes on Saturday morning. I thought about teaching you Orion, the 3 stars in a row. I thought about you, and I held on. Lily processed this. 7 years old, processing the fact that her sister had endured 13 days of torture by thinking about pancakes and stars and braids. Harper? Yeah? I looked for Orion every night. Through the window, I found the 3 stars and I talked to you. What did you say? I said, come home. Every night. Come home. Come home. Come home. Harper couldn't speak. She pulled Lily into her lap and buried her face in those messy braids and breathed in the smell of her, peanut butter and dust, and the laundry detergent from the clubhouse blanket. And underneath all of it, Lily. Just Lily. The most important smell in the world. The EMTs moved in gently. Harper let them this time. She let them help her stand, guide her to the ambulance, start the IV she'd pulled out during the reunion. But she didn't let go of Lily's hand. The EMTs worked around it. They'd been doing this long enough to know which battles to fight and which to lose gracefully. Ma'am, we need to transport you to the hospital. Fine. She comes with me. That's not standard. She comes with me or I'm not going. The EMT looked at Ace. Ace looked at the EMT. She comes with her. The EMT opened the ambulance door wider. Lily climbed in first. She arranged herself on the bench seat, pulled the blanket off the stretcher, and spread it over Harper's legs as the EMTs guided her sister onto the gurney. Then she pressed herself against Harper's side and put her head on her shoulder. Ace? Harper said from inside the ambulance. He stepped closer. Thank you. I can't. There aren't words. You don't need words. How do I repay this? Get better. Take care of your sister. Live your life. That's not enough. It's everything. She reached out and took his hand, squeezed it. Her grip was weak. 13 days of starvation will do that. But the intention behind it wasn't weak at all. It was the grip of a woman who'd found the other side of hell and was holding on to the first person who'd helped her climb out. The flash drive, she said. It's hidden, in Lily's stuffed bear, the one on her bed. I cut it open and sewed it inside. Nobody would think to check a child's stuffed animal. I'll get it to the FBI. Razor's handling the handoff. Everything's on it. Names, dates, routes, financial records, every dollar Voss ever moved, every person he ever bought and sold. It'll destroy him. Good. Ace? Yeah? Don't disappear, okay? After this, don't just ride off. Lily, she's attached to you. She'll never say it because she's tougher than any of us, but we need. She stopped, looked away. The vulnerability of asking for help after 13 days of refusing to show weakness was almost more than she could handle. I'm not going anywhere, Harper. She nodded. The ambulance doors closed. The engine started. The vehicle pulled out of the parking lot, and in the back, through the small window, Ace could see Lily pressed against Harper's side, one hand holding her sister's fingers, the other resting on the Ziploc bag in the flannel pocket. Stonewall walked up beside him. The two men stood in the dust, watching the ambulance get smaller. 999 men, Stonewall said quietly. 12 states, 5 from Wyoming. Yeah, and it all started because your oil line cracked. Ace looked at him. If your oil line doesn't crack, you're not at that shop. If you're not at that shop, that girl walks up to a stranger who tells her to get lost. And Harper Marshall dies in that compound. Ace didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The weight of that truth settled over both of them like dust. Go to the hospital, Stonewall said. Be there when she wakes up. Which one? Stonewall looked at him. A look that said everything and nothing. A look that contained 19 years of brotherhood and the unspoken understanding that Ace had just asked a question with an answer he already knew. Both of them. Ace mounted his bike. One kick. The engine caught. He pulled out of the lot and pointed himself toward the hospital, riding alone for the first time in 24 hours, following an ambulance carrying 2 sisters and $73 and the beginning of something he didn't have a name for yet. Behind him, the clubhouse parking lot emptied slowly, 999 men dispersing, heading home, back to jobs and families and lives that would look the same but feel different because of what they'd seen today, because of a sound they'd never forget, a 7-year-old girl screaming her sister's name with everything she had. Tank was the last to leave. He stood in the parking lot, alone, looking at the spot in the dirt where Lily had crashed into Harper. 2 small knee prints, a smear where they'd rocked back and forth, the ground still holding the shape of the most important moment he'd ever witnessed. He pulled out his phone, looked at the last text from Ace. She says, "Drive faster." He closed his phone, got in his truck, drove to the hospital. Because driving faster was exactly what he intended to do. From now on, for as long as it took, for as long as they needed him, for as long as she called him Mr. Tank and made him feel like the name meant something bigger than anything he'd earned in a lifetime of wearing the patch. The hospital wouldn't let Lily stay in Harper's bed. Hospital policy. Visiting hours, minor, unaccompanied. 3 different nurses tried to explain the rules. Lily listened to each one politely, nodded, said, "I understand," and didn't move a single inch. The 4th nurse, an older woman named Gloria, who'd worked the ER for 31 years, took one look at the situation, pulled the curtain closed, and said to her colleagues, "That child is not leaving that bed. Write whatever you need to write on the chart. I'll sign it." Nobody argued with Gloria. Nobody ever had, so Lily stayed. Pressed against Harper's side, her small body fitted into the curve of her sister's ribs like a puzzle piece returning to its place. Every time Harper shifted, Lily adjusted. Every time a doctor came in, Lily's eyes tracked them, measuring, evaluating, deciding whether they were a threat. She'd learned threat assessment in a closet at 2 in the morning. She was very good at it. The doctors cataloged the damage: 3 cracked ribs, fractured orbital bone, ligature marks on both wrists, some infected, severe dehydration, malnutrition, contusions across 80% of her torso. Harper listened to the list with her jaw set and her hand on Lily's head, stroking her hair, as if the injuries were things that had happened to someone else. and the only real thing in the room was her sister's heartbeat against her side. "How long until I can go home?" Harper asked. 3 to 5 days minimum. The ribs need 2 days. "Ms. Marshall, 2 days. I have a little sister who's been sleeping in a biker clubhouse. I have a trailer with a broken door. I have a life that's been on pause for 13 days, and I need to unpause it. 2 days." The doctor looked at Lily. Lily looked at the doctor. "She does what she says," Lily confirmed. "Always. 2 days." Tank stood outside the hospital room door. He didn't sit, didn't lean, didn't leave for food or water or the bathroom. A nurse brought him coffee at hour 6. He thanked her. At hour 14, the same nurse brought a sandwich. He thanked her again. At hour 20, she brought a folding chair. "You're going to destroy your knees. They're already destroyed. 7-year-old girl got to them before you did. Sit down, sir." "Yes, ma'am." He sat, but he didn't sleep. He'd slept enough in his life. This was something else. Ace arrived at the hospital an hour after the ambulance. He didn't go in. He sat in the waiting room for 40 minutes, staring at the floor, running his hands over his face, trying to understand the thing that was happening inside his chest. Then Lily appeared in the hallway, barefoot, flannel shirt, Ziploc bag, and walked straight to him. "She's sleeping. The medicine made her sleepy. I don't like when she sleeps because I'm scared she won't wake up. But the nurse said that's normal, and the nurse seems smart. How are you, kid?" "Hungry." "Again?" "I'm always hungry now. I think my stomach forgot how to be full." He took her to the cafeteria. She ate a turkey sandwich, a bag of chips, an apple, and a chocolate pudding. She ate it all in 6 minutes. Then she looked at Ace's untouched coffee. "You're not eating." "Not hungry." "Liar. Harper says men who say they're not hungry are either lying or dying. You're not dying, so you're lying. Eat something." He ate something. "Ace?" "Yeah?" "What happens now, after the hospital, after Harper gets better? What happens to us?" He looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do we go back to the trailer? Do we go back to normal? Does everything just reset, like nothing happened?" "No, Lily, nothing resets. Everything that happened, it happened. It changed things." "Changed what?" "Changed me for starters." She studied him. That look again. The one that x-rayed through leather and ink and 20 years of road and found whatever was underneath. "Changed you how?" "I don't know yet. I'm still figuring it out." "Okay, but figure it out fast. Because Harper needs help, and she's too stubborn to ask for it, and somebody has to be there when the stubborn runs out." Ace stared at this 7-year-old girl who just assigned him a future without asking permission. "You're bossy, you know that?" "Harper says I'm assertive. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Bossy is when you want things for yourself. Assertive is when you want things for other people. I want things for Harper, so I'm assertive." He couldn't argue with that. He didn't try. The flash drive did what Harper said it would. Razor delivered it to the FBI field office in Phoenix, along with a handwritten note from Harper detailing every file, every name, every route. The agents opened it expecting a bargaining chip. They found a bomb. 16 arrests in 72 hours, 2 trafficking routes dismantled, safe houses raided in 3 states, 11 victims recovered, women and girls Voss had moved through his pipeline like inventory. The cartel upstream took one look at the exposure and cut Voss loose so fast his lawyers couldn't even file the paperwork. They'd never heard of him. They'd never met him. Derek who? Voss went to trial 4 months later. Federal courtroom. Harper testified. She walked to the witness stand with steady hands and a steady voice and sat down like she'd been preparing for this her entire life. She had. 13 days in that compound, she'd rehearsed every word, every answer, every truth she'd tell when the time came. The prosecutor asked, "Why didn't you give up the flash drive?" Harper didn't hesitate. because it was the only thing keeping Lily safe. If I gave it up, I was worthless to them. If I was worthless, they had no reason to keep me alive. And if I wasn't alive, Lily had nobody. You endured 13 days of physical abuse to protect that information. I endured 13 days because my sister was waiting for me. I promised her, every night when I tucked her in, I promised I'd always come back. I don't break promises, especially not to her. She looked at the gallery. Lily sat in the front row between Ace and Tank. She was wearing shoes now, new ones, white sneakers Ace had bought her the day after the rescue. She was holding the Ziploc bag in her lap. She never went anywhere without it. The jury was out for 90 minutes, guilty on all counts: kidnapping, assault, false imprisonment, conspiracy to traffic. Federal sentencing, 28 years without parole. When the verdict came down, Harper didn't cheer, didn't cry. She turned around in her seat and looked at Lily. Lily looked back. "Is it over?" Lily asked. "It's over, baby." "Really over? Like over? 28 years of over." Lily nodded once. Then she reached into the Ziploc bag, pulled out a single penny, and set it on the courtroom bench. "What's that for?" Harper asked. "For luck, in case we need it later, but I don't think we will." Ace kept coming back. That was the thing about him. He'd said he wouldn't disappear, and he meant it with the same weight he'd put behind every other promise he'd made to those two girls. First it was the trailer. The plumbing was shot. He showed up with tools and crawled under the kitchen sink, while Harper stood behind him, holding a flashlight she didn't need in a room that wasn't dark. They talked while he worked. About the diner, about her fear of going back to work, about leaving Lily with anyone, even for an hour. "I can't do it," Harper said. "I can't leave her. What if something... Nothing's going to happen." "You don't know that. You can't promise that." "You're right, I can't. But I can promise that if anything ever happens again, you won't face it alone. Neither will she." Harper was quiet for a long time. Then, "That sounds lonely." "What does?" "The way you live. The road. Alone. Always moving." It was lonely. Didn't know it until recently. How recently? About 13 days recently. She handed him a wrench he hadn't asked for. He took it. Their fingers touched. Neither of them pulled away. Tank rebuilt the porch steps. Showed up one Saturday morning with lumber and nails and no invitation. Lily sat beside him the entire time, handing him nails one at a time, inspecting each board after he nailed it. "That one's crooked." He looked. It was. He pulled it out and redid it. "Better," she said, patting his arm the way a foreman might acknowledge acceptable work from a new hire. "Thanks, boss." "I'm not your boss. I'm your quality control." Noted. Harper opened the bakery 8 months later, a small cafe on Main Street, funded by a loan co-signed by a man whose credit score was questionable, but whose handshake was accepted at the bank without a second glance. She called it Lily's Kitchen. Ace built the shelves. Tank installed the sign. Preacher blessed the space on opening day, standing in the middle of the empty cafe with his hands raised and his eyes closed, saying words that made Harper cry and Lily nod approvingly. Nobody had asked him to bless it. Nobody stopped him. The cafe became something nobody expected. The Hells Angels adopted it as their Friday stop. Every week, bikes rolled up, and men who looked like they belonged on wanted posters walked through the front door for coffee and pastries, and the experience of being greeted by a 7-year-old girl who ran out from behind the counter to hug their legs. "Your cafe has the most intimidating customer base in Arizona," the mailman said one morning. "They tip well," Harper said. The $73 was framed. Harper did it herself. Shadow box on the wall behind the register. Wrinkled bills and coins behind glass. A small brass plaque beneath it. Ace asked what it should say. Lily answered without hesitating. "The price of courage. The value of love." Nobody suggested anything different. 12 years passed. Not all at once. Day by day, the way real life happens when it's being lived instead of survived. Ace sat in a high school auditorium, leather cut on, wedged into a plastic chair 3 sizes too small for a man his size. Harper sat on his left, her hand on his knee. Tank sat on his right, overflowing into the aisle, his folding seat groaning under 285 pounds of motorcycle enforcer in formal discomfort. Behind them, filling the last 2 rows, 42 Hells Angels from 7 chapters, all in their cuts, all crammed into plastic chairs designed for parents half their size, all wearing expressions that combined extreme physical discomfort with extreme pride. On stage, a 19-year-old girl with brown hair and fierce blue eyes stood at the podium. Valedictorian, full scholarship, the kind of future that gets built on the ruins of the kind of past that should have destroyed it. When I was 7 years old, I saved $73 to bring my sister home. The auditorium went silent. I didn't know it wasn't enough. I didn't know you can't buy back the people you love. I counted it 11 times. And I walked up to the biggest, scariest man I'd ever seen, and I held out everything I had, and I asked him to help me. She looked at the back rows, at the leather, at the patches, at the men who'd ridden through the night 12 years ago because a child asked. He said, "Keep your money, kid. You're going to need it for ice cream." She paused, let it land. I learned something that day that every textbook in this school tried to teach me and couldn't. I learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's a 7-year-old girl in an oversized flannel shirt, barefoot on hot gravel, shaking so hard she can barely hold a Ziploc bag, walking up to a stranger and saying 3 words. Her voice broke. She let it. "Can you help?" Standing ovation. 42 Hells Angels rose together, leather creaking, applause like thunder. Tank was crying openly, tears running into his beard, clapping so hard his palms turned red. Preacher had his head bowed. Gears was grinning through wet eyes. Tiny was sobbing without shame, his massive shoulders heaving. Ace sat still. 1 tear traced down his weathered face. He didn't wipe it away. He'd earned it. Harper's hand tightened on his knee. She leaned over and whispered, "She gets the brave from you." "She had it before I showed up." "Maybe, but you taught her it was worth using." That night, a quiet booth, 3 glasses, orange juice for Lily, wine for Harper, whiskey neat for Ace. Harper raised her glass. "To family." Lily raised hers. "To $73. Ace lifted his whiskey. His hand was steady. His voice was not. "To the bravest kid I ever met, and the best thing that ever happened to a broken-down biker with a busted oil line." They drank. The glasses touched the table. Lily leaned against Harper. Harper leaned against Ace. And for one moment, in a booth in a restaurant in Arizona, 12 years after the worst night of their lives, 3 people who'd found each other by accident and kept each other on purpose sat in the kind of silence that only exists between people who don't need words anymore. In the clubhouse, on a shelf above the bar, next to faded photos of fallen brothers and a child's drawing of a warrior princess on a motorcycle, yellowed now, curling at the edges, but still taped in its place of honor, sat a small glass jar. Inside it, $73 in coins and crumpled bills. Below it, a sign in a child's handwriting, the letters uneven, the ink faded, but the words as clear as the day they were written. This is what courage looks like. Courage was never 999 motorcycles. It was never a broken-down door or a man with fists like hammers or a convoy stretching to the horizon. Courage was a 7-year-old girl in an oversized flannel shirt, barefoot on hot gravel, holding out everything she had to a stranger and saying the 3 bravest words in the English language. "Can you help?" She could. She did. She always would.